Today I'm joined by Mark Richardson. Mark is double Olympian, silver medalist at the 1996 Olympic Games, bronze medalist at the 1992 Olympic Games, and the world champion in 1997. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be joining you here today. Thank you.
Mark, your discipline, the 400 meters, is one of the most grueling events. How did you get into that?
Yeah, by accident. So it certainly wasn't by choice. It was more to do with physiology, and I guess the event that I was best at. But the reason that I got involved in athletics in the first place was the great Carl Lewis. I wanted to emulate him, and I wanted to be a sprinter. And actually, my body just couldn't withstand the explosive power and nature of that event. So it was my dad who planted the seed of giving the 400 a try, and I adapted to it pretty well, and the rest is history, so to say.
Really cool. In your athletic life, what was your darkest moment?
Yeah, darkest moment. I've been reflecting on this, and there's probably been a few. So there was some injuries that I thought actually would mean the end of my career. So working through those, an athlete never wants to be injured, and it's one of the most frustrating things possible. I lost my best friend to illness. So he suffered from cystic fibrosis. So that was really up there. That was up there. And the other thing that was a real hammer blow to me was having my identity challenged. So the fact that I, through no fault of my own, I've never knowingly taken a prohibited substance, but I failed a drugs test for some supplements I was taking that were contaminated with something that shouldn't have been in there, and having to clear my name and having to go through that whole experience, it was a human tragedy, really.
And it's written on Wikipedia, you also didn't refuse the ban that was put onto you, right? Whilst others of your colleagues did.
Yeah. So, but by that, I didn't challenge it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I wanted to get to the bottom of it. So, it felt like it was an issue that was bigger than just me. So one, there was this whole speculation, curiosity, research around nandrolone, because it naturally occurs in the human body, and there's a de minimis level, and people weren't sure that actually through high intensive activity, whether and supplementation, whether that could trigger a natural response in the human body. And for me, what I wanted to do was protect other athletes, and I wanted to be completely transparent. So I kind of accepted the rules of the sport, which is strict liability. So once the substance is found within your system, that you are responsible for that finding. But what I wanted to do was use a values-based approach that got to the truth. And I essentially became a human guinea pig. So I got tested and prodded and went through all kinds of different nandrolone reviews, and an IOC accredited lab got involved in it. And I was able to categorically prove that what I'd spoken about, i.e. the supplementation being the root cause of it, what was the case, and I got exonerated and welcomed back into the sport. And I think I'm one of the very few athletes who have been able to achieve that.
How did you recover from that moment?
Yeah, how did I recover? Interesting question. So it's certainly it's forged who I am. So it's become part of my character. So I think that if you can get through something that challenges you to that level, that really does, I guess, challenge your identity and your perceived identity, and how you try and portray yourself to the world and what you represent and stand for. When that gets rocked, it causes you to reflect. It causes you to work out what's really important to you. It causes you to I guess, just reassess your values and be really clear on what your values are going forward. So in many ways, it's been, I wouldn't quite say the making of me, but it's certainly helped me to be much clearer and give me a clearer focus of who I want to be and the type of life I want to live going forwards. So, I wouldn't wish for a different outcome. So it's helped to forged me into the person that I am today, and I quite like the person that I am today. So it was a good learning experience.
And that is cool. I've spoken to Mark McCoy before, and he has also been involved with similar challenges, let's call it challenges. And he said there was a moment for him to learn who his friends were and not, because there were people who were not friends, they were running for the hills for his names, his words. So, yeah. What was your best moment?
Yeah, best moments. So definitely up there. One of them was winning the Olympic silver medal in the 4x400 meter relay in 1996. And I guess for me, the reason for that was because I'd always dreamt of going to the Olympics, getting onto the podium, having that heady, euphoric moment of winning an Olympic medal, and just, you know, being able to absorb and just take in the adulation, the crowd, that environment. So that is the, you know, probably the greatest imaginable challenge that you can put out there. So to have that dream as an 11-year-old, and for that to be the galvanizing motivational force that helps you through the highs and lows that you experience through sport, and actually to be able to realize that and have that moment with, you know, 3 other colleagues that you just have such a deep reservoir of respect for was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. So I love that experience, and something that I'll treasure. And that Olympics medal has a deep narrative that sits behind it, and it's really nice that my children are now of an age where they're interested and curious about it and want to hear the story and take inspiration from it. It's lovely when you see others taking inspiration from it as well. So that's certainly one of the highlights. Another highlight was running my personal best. So running a time of 44.37 seconds. And that was an interesting race because it was at the Oslo Golden League, as it was known at that point in time. It was at the time when the track was only 6 lanes. It was from lane 1. And also a nice outcome from that race was that I beat the former world record holder, Michael Johnson. So yeah, not many people can claim to have that accolade. So I was the only European athlete to have ever beaten Michael Johnson. So that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah. And going back to the Olympic Games, I watched the final. Did the number 2 go out a little bit too fast?
Yeah, so Jamie used to run his races to that pattern. So it's a difficult one. You could say with a critical lens and a critical eye, could Jamie have extracted a little bit more from the race? Who knows? But that was his tempo, that was his race pattern, that was his style. And I think we did remarkably well. So we ran a European record, which still stands today, actually. So I don't think a British team has got near to that mark. There were some incredible individual performances. Could we have been even better on the day? Absolutely, I think we could. There was some marginal gains that we could have got. Would that have been good enough to get us the gold medal? Who knows?
Yeah. If you could travel back in time 10, 15, 20 years, what advice would you give a younger Mark?
What advice would I give? Probably 2. So I'd say work on your self-belief. Work really, really hard, relentlessly at your self-belief. So I think that self-belief in any environment is such a big predictor of success, high performance, getting the types of outcomes that you want. And I think surrounding yourself with people who will embolden your self-belief as well is really, really important. So I'd say that. And then the other piece of advice, I'm expanding the question. I'm going to give myself 2 because I've got a time machine after all. The second one would be to activate to an even stronger level my learning mindset. So I was very much an activist as an athlete, wanting to train hard, work harder than I did the year before, and I would have spent more time reflecting and working out systems and processes that would have helped me to become ultimately a better athlete. So I think harnessing the power of reflection and activating a stronger learning mindset would be something that I'd definitely be inviting myself to think about if I could do that.
What could be an example of that, just to make it a bit clearer?
I think it's really disseminating lessons learned and being really, I guess, interested and intentional about that continuous improvement. So instead of just thinking that working harder, training to a greater intensity will get you to the outcome that you want, it's thinking about, well, how can you create innovation? How can you, I don't know, streamline some approaches? How can you get to that same enhanced level of personal performance, but do it in a way that's more intelligent, so a way that wouldn't tax your system or tax your body as much? So I think that deep level of reflection, I would invite anyone to get and to embrace.
What are the habits that make you a successful athlete and person?
I'm a relentless goal setter. And I think there's many benefits to that. I think but there's also a shadow side to it. So I think that I certainly I like to focus on outcomes. So having something that's gonna, I guess, command my thoughts, liberate my energy, inspire my hopes, something that's really big, something that kind of almost takes your breath away in terms of the size and magnitude of the thing that you're going after. I think that's really, really important. And then being quite rigorous and systematic. So thinking about so if that's the outcome that you're going for, actually working out what your own personal narrative is and why it's important to you, and getting that really, really firmly crystallized. And that's the thing that you kind of tuck under your pillow, because that's the thing when the going gets tough, you need to be able to access that to really, I guess, enhance and optimize your intrinsic levels of motivation. So I think goal setting, but really well-rounded, holistic goals, I think that's really, really important. And I guess, but the shadow side is that you never necessarily get to the point where you're ever satisfied. So I'm relentlessly driving forward. So I recognize that in myself, and I've got to be careful not to impose that on others. So I think I'm pretty good at that. And now actually I'm a much stronger reflector than I ever was. So in the profession that I'm in now, actually I challenge executives from a wide range of different industries to think about what are the hallmarks of their leadership, what makes them a fantastic leader, what makes them or what would help them to create an even better environment for their people. And actually some of the almost performance coaching practice that I use on others, I use on myself. So I have a deeper level of reflection. So taking that and harnessing that is definitely something that's helping me. It didn't help me as much in my athletic career, but it's certainly something that I'm utilizing now.
And what were the lessons learned as an athlete that you're taking into your role in business right now?
Yeah, I think focus is it needs to be absolute. So just having that intensity and commitment to whatever it is that you're driving to. I think discipline. So being able to get yourself into a place whereby you're prepared to do the hard yards that are required to get you to the outcome goal that you're after. So being relentless in your pursuit of the process goals. So all those small building blocks, I guess those 1%ers that will, if you're able to activate them and to do them in a really rigorous and complete way, that when you chunk them up to to aggregate them together, it will really jet propel your performance. So I was very good at that. I was very good at doing things that perhaps others people didn't want to do or they lost interest with. So because I kind of knew that would give me a platform. So seeing that through and having that commitment was something that was absolutely key. And I guess that towards the back end of my career, I started to really get in tune and harness what were my strengths as an athlete, and how do you almost get them to be super strengths of your own. So I think too often people think about their weaknesses and pursue those instead of thinking about what are the things that really make you and are the hallmarks of and attributes that make you good at what it is that you do, and really working and over indexing on those, because I think those will take you to a really great place if you're able to do that.
Yeah. focusing on the strengths rather than the weaknesses. Do you have a morning routine?
Do I have a morning routine? So one of my favorite morning routines, and I can't always do that because I've got a young family. So two daughters, one who's 12, one who's 6. And of course, with the current conditions that we're working in, we've all been homeschooling, working from home. It's been really intense. It's been really intense. I have fallen into a pattern of working out early morning, so that might and working out is across the spectrum, right? So my best start to a morning would be being able to get up before my family rise, go out for a run in the forest that I'm close to for an hour or so, come back, have a leisurely breakfast, then integrate with the family, and then kick on with work. That just sets me up for a great day. If I'm able to do that, be outdoors, get some good cardiovascular work in as well, in an awe-inspiring background, it's just fantastic. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah. How do you prepare yourself for important moments?
In a variety of ways, actually. So I think preparation is key. So it depends on what the performance moment in question is. But I think that it's that classic piece of preparation. So really being able to take ownership of whatever it is that you're about to embark on. So if it's a presentation or facilitating a group or a performance moment as an athlete, it's kind of working backwards from there and working out what is it that you need to be at your authentic best, and to be able to be your best with skill in that moment. So preparation is absolutely, it's vital for me. So lots and lots of prep work. I'm a great believer in visualization. So is it scenario planning? It's kind of imagining the environment that you're going to be plunging yourself into. And I guess what I don't ever want to be is overawed or intimidated by that environment. So thinking through what it might be like, what my emotional arousal might be like. So kind of working through all the different scenarios that might play out helps me to feel much more comfortable and at ease when I'm actually in that environment as well. And just being really clear on what a great performance would look like. So kind of when the outcomes are working toward, I think you can use that case. That's what high grade performance looks like. Then you work backwards from that to make sure that you can put all the building blocks in place to give you the best possible chance of actualizing it.
Yeah. And I've taken a note down here. You already mentioned you were one of the few guys to beat Michael Johnson. Did you strategically plan that race, or was it more something where you just tried and it happened?
Yeah, a bit of both, really. So a bit of an oxymoron at both ends. So yeah, well, what I noticed about, or what I recall about that race. So at the time, Oslo was a 6-lane track. The lane draw that you get was all based on seeding or times that you've run during the performance or your stature as an athlete. Michael Johnson got the preferential lane. I can't remember if it was in lane 3 or 4. I think it might have been 3 because he's the world's #1 by a country mile. I was in lane 1. Europeans tend to start the season late. Americans, my times hadn't been sparkling to that point in time. And actually, I was forced to adapt. But I noticed 2 things that were really, really important. And actually, this links to a strength that I perhaps have. So I had to reframe that race. So I can remember seeing the lane draw and I started catastrophizing. Just thought, this is it. It's all over. I'm going to have a terrible performance because I can't execute the type of race that I'm good at from lane 1. Lane 1, really tight bends. Is Oslo, horrendous bends, lane 1. You can't sprint as you naturally would because of just the tightness of the curves. And I was noticed that actually I was almost defeated before I even got into that race. So I had to capture myself and just reframe my thinking and come up with a positive mindset. And I guess the challenge that I set myself was if I could finish in the top 3 with a world-class field, a field of that stature, then that would be something that would be extraordinary. And I had to think through if I could adapt my race to that. So some adaptations, just a few tweaks. But actually, I had to hold my nerve. So I came into the home straight in last place, but I had enough left in reserve to be able to kind of glide my way through the field, and managed to clinch a personal best time and win that race. It was quite a special moment.
Yeah, really cool. How do you overcome setbacks?
I'm a big believer in reframing. It's a skill that I don't know. It just comes naturally to me. I think I'm always looking for a positive. So and I'm relentless in that, actually. So what's the lesson, the learning, the thing that it's given you, or the thing that it's given you exposure to that perhaps you wouldn't have. So how can you reframe that so you can glean something positive from it? I think that's really, really important. I noticed that I'm at my best when I'm responding to challenge. So in some way, whether it's challenge from the environment externally, in pressures that are being imposed by others, but having that sense of stretch and challenge brings out the best in me. So it's how do you give yourself that? So sometimes I'm guilty of self-sabotage to try and recreate that. But I think that if you're able to reframe, think about the learning that you've drawn, and also that we've got so many things. I feel really lucky and privileged. So I've got so many things that I have enormous gratitude for. So I've got an incredible family unit, really supportive wife, great kids. We're blessed. We live in a great area. So being able to harness the sense of appreciation and gratitude as well is something that's really, really important. And actually, it's really helped me during lockdown, thinking about all the wonderful things that we've got and are able to have, as opposed to what's been taken away from me. So I think that those kind of attitudinal adjustments are really important.
Who's your role model and why?
Wow, what a question. I have multiple, actually, who are they're not famous people. So there's probably been a range of sports people that I really admired and looked up to. So one of them, at the vanguard of their sport, Carl Lewis. So the reason that I wanted to become a track and field athlete myself was watching Carl at the Los Angeles Olympics, 1984. He didn't quite rewrite the record books, but he emulated what the great Jesse Owens had done at the Berlin Games in 1936. As an 11-year-old, that those images are absolutely kind of etched into my consciousness. I'll never forget them. He was just the epitome of world-class athlete. Just everything that he did it seemed effortless. He was graceful, high performing. He just had it all. So he was my inspirational role model, I guess. The reason why I wanted to get into the sport in the first place. And then there's been others along the way. So Olympic Christie, he redefined the record books in terms of sprints and the hierarchy of sprints, and a Brit beating the Americans. Wow, fantastic. And then as I've gone through my career, there are perhaps others, but now I've been lucky enough to work with some of the people that I would consider to be some of the best leaders that I've ever experienced. So having the opportunity to learn from them, work with them, that's been fantastic. Within my own circle, there's some really high-flying business people that I'm lucky enough to be able to call my friends, and they've certainly had a very, very positive influence on me. So I'm a great believer in just kind of magpieing, modeling certain behaviors of people that I think, yeah, I like that, I'm going to do some of that, because I can see when they do that, it gets this outcome. So trying to do it for myself, but in an authentic way.
Out of interest, what makes a good or great leader?
Big question. What makes a good or great leader? I think they need to be clear on their identity. I think it needs to be based from a values-based perspective. So an understanding that they're in the service of others. And a great leader is someone who cares passionately and is really relentless in the focus in terms of creating a culture whereby people feel inspired, they feel motivated, they feel as if there's a real clarity of purpose. So the work that they're doing is aspirational. It has something that is deep rooted and gives them meaning. And yet they're able to be themselves with skill, and they're able to develop their mastery in whatever particular field that they're going towards. And there's a great sense of collectiveness, harmony, belonging. I think if a leader is able to get to that place, so be clear on the vision and the purpose, that they're able to create a sense of challenge, so people are really being stretched, motivated, they understand what will create the conditions for intrinsic motivation to be at its utmost, and challenge people, really be challenging of them and be clear what the performance expectations are, but also to give them plenty of support, to be empathetic, to help people to have an emotional resonance and connection. I think they're going to be well on the way to being a great leader.
Yeah, cool. What is the best advice you received, and who gave it to you?
Wow, what's the best advice that I've received? Who gave it to me? Yeah, probably, I don't know if it's the best, but certainly up then it was quite memorable. Was a piece of advice about not being too hard on myself, and actually I can remember I said the very same words to a friend not too long ago, but me kind of saying it to them and their related to their personal context. So I think that we can all have not all, but some of us can have a shadow side whereby, I don't know, you might feel flat, or you're not having a great day, or you start to almost chip away at your own levels of self-belief or self-esteem. And I think that we need to learn to be our own cheerleaders at times. And if you can learn not to be so harsh in your critical appraisal of self, so at times it can serve you really well. So that relentless pursuit of excellence, for sure, I get it. But you don't want it to be at to such an extent that it starts actually damaging you in some way, and it starts eroding your self-esteem. So at times there's something about not being quite as hard as yourself, giving yourself a break. And I found that quite helpful.
Yeah, that has come back quite a few times from high performers, that they kind of live on this double-edged sword of pushing forward, but also then being pretty tough on themselves in instances where they don't achieve the goals that they have set out for themselves. Back in the days, how did a typical training day look like?
Wow, God, now you're testing my memory. Feels like a long time ago. Yeah, it depended on what the session was. So, I used to love spending time out in California. So one with the training, we'll go out there for a chunk of 3 months, maybe up to 3 months, and work out from Cal Berkeley University. So we would look to train mid-morning. So really be enjoying the full benefits of the climatic conditions. So it'd be nice and warm, but not oppressively hot. You'd be thinking backwards from the start time of when you need to warm up, so making sure that you have good nutritious breakfast and plenty of times the food could go down, and that I wasn't in danger of being sick during the session. And then what I noticed was it was a really tough session. So one of the sessions that you really found out about yourself was a session like 4x300 meters at warp speed, as we used to call it. So you're having a good recovery, and you're running pretty much flat out. And what you're trying to do is get your body used to the lactic tolerance, so building lactic tolerance. And you start doing your mental preparations, because you know that there's no escaping. You're going to really hurt yourself during that session. You're going to almost to the point of scarring type thing, mentally scar yourself. And so you need to be comfortable with that, and you need to get yourself into a place whereby you'd actually embrace the pain. And so you'd start just going through your mental preparations to get yourself ready for that. There'll be an exhaustive warm down, so warm up rather, so getting yourself ready physically as well as mentally for the carnage that's going to ensue, and then it's about trying to preserve energy. So you're thinking about technique all the way through. So running really, really efficiently, really smoothly with, technical grace, so that you're optimizing the energy, the finite amount of energy that you've got, because it's going to run out at times. After the session, it would be pretty brutal. So you're trying to recover. So once you've managed to haul yourself up off the track, and it'd be a scene of destruction. So people throwing up and having headaches and all kinds of stuff. And you slowly claw your way out of that, and then you go through a warm down. So you've got to get help to flush out those toxins from your system. And then we jump into when we get back, jump into the jacuzzi, lots of stretching out. I typically have a sports massage after that, and then just chill out, read a book. You're just thinking about nutrition and relaxation and recovery. So it all depends on what session you were doing, but it was the focal point of any day. In the winter, of course, you might be doubling up on sessions, but it was fun time to be able to dedicate that much focus and attention to training.
What's going on in the life of Mark at this moment in time?
Yeah, so I work for Lane 4 Management Consultancy. We are a performance consultancy. We have a range of expertise, from helping leaders to be the best with skills, helping leaders think about the environment that they're creating for their people and the culture that they create. We help organizations through change and transformation. We are moving into, and I guess we've all been forced into this space, but a really exciting new product offer, so our digital performance suite. So whether that be self-directed and giving leaders, managers tools, a repertoire of tools to be able to really affect organizational performance, as well as virtual delivery. So we do a whole wide range of different things, and I'm lucky enough to be part of the partnership group, and we're working hard to try and get some type of normality amongst this global pandemic. So we've still got a wide range of customers who are keen to continue with their organizational development objectives and want to keep their keep their learning culture, and we're helping them to be really resilient in the offer that they're giving to their people. So that keeps me fully busy.
Cool. Do you want to nominate someone to be interviewed?
Cool, that's a good question. Do I want to nominate someone to be So have you? What other quarter milers have you done? Who else have you done?
Quarter milers.
Done any other 400 meter runners?
Yeah, 400 meter hurdles. Kevin Young. I had Tasha Danvers. Piotr Hasek, who competed with you at the 1996 Olympics.
Yeah, brilliant.
I think that was it from the quarter milers, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's an athlete that I sometimes get confused with. So people think that I am him. Derek Redmond. So he's got a brilliant story to tell. Yeah, brilliant story to tell.
People know that story of
yeah,
Olympics.
Exactly that.
Really
Exactly cool. That. So I think that I think Derek would be a fantastic person to have a conversation with. He's got a really interesting perspective.
Yeah, really cool. Thanks for that. Where can people find you?
So I'm very active on Instagram. So I'm out there, and I'm trying to radiate some positivity out there. So I'm constantly putting some stuff out about the workouts and the fitness stuff I'm doing. I'm on Twitter as well, at Rico400. So those are probably the main channels, and LinkedIn as well. On LinkedIn, I'm a big believer of growing your networks. So by all means, please seek me out on those platforms.
Really cool. Mark, thanks a lot for your time. It was awesome.
Absolute pleasure. Great. Thank you.